Hi, today we're going to be designing the plate that you're going to later carve for your printing plate. We will be able to design on 2 pages today, and you only need to design on actually one of the two, either the plain square or the graph paper, standard square paper. You do not need to do both, just one of the two. Now I'm going to show you both so you can decide which technique is best for you. And if you look, you will also have choices not only in which paper, but whether you want your composition to be symmetrical, asymmetrical, or radial balance. Now balance means it has even weight. Symmetrical, in math class you learned, it means the same on both sides. And asymmetrical is not a in front of a word, that prefix means not. So if you have a circle on one side and symmetrical, you'd have to put a circle on the other. On asymmetrical, on the other hand, if you had a circle over here, maybe you have a triangle over here to balance it out. Or a big circle equals 3 small circles. Not the same on both sides. For radial, it's almost like these, where it's, if you think about it like a pie, and it's the same going around in a circle. So those are different ways to balance a composition. Now, you will decide which one is best for you, and you'll be able to circle. These are the criteria, and they're the exact same criteria whether you pick the plain square or the square graph paper. So I want to quickly show you how to get it started. The one way is, let's say you pick something symmetrical. Some people start by using either a triangle or a ruler to design their image. I find it a little easier for me to use the triangle. Now this can help me because if I want to design something symmetrical, I need to think about things being the same on both sides. So what I do to this side, I would want to do something similar to this side. Now it doesn't have to be exactly symmetrical, but you are just trying to really design something that is balanced. Now, the other things that you'll need to do is you will need to alternate your black and white shapes. If you pick an asymmetrical composition, it doesn't have to be the same side on both sides. So if you look here, this one is just random, really neat shapes, but there's no big empty spaces. You can design where you have even weight. There's nowhere that's not completely blank and everywhere else filled. It has even weight, but it's definitely not the same on both sides. So this would be an example of asymmetrical. This one I started is an example of symmetrical. Now, you could also design it on the graph paper. Here, I'm designing something that's symmetrical. With the graph paper, some kids find it easier to design on this because they can actually count squares, and it's helpful if you're having trouble to make things the same on both sides. So if that's easier for you, by all means go for it. You could use it to design something asymmetrical as well. Now, the next thing to keep in mind once you've designed your image is that you will need to have some shapes that alternate black and white shapes. And the reason for that is you're designing a plate. You will leave the black shapes and you will carve away the white shapes because later on you're going to roll this with ink and print it. If everything is the same, if it's all white shapes, it'll fall apart because you'll be carving everything. On the other hand, if everything's black, then it will have too much ink and it won't be balanced and the ink won't spread evenly. So you will want to balance the black, white shapes and also some kind of stripes or textures to your work. It could be hatching lines or maybe concentric. So if I wanted to add concentric patterns, then I could just take the shape and make the same shape getting smaller and smaller. And it's a lot easier to carve straight lines than it is super fancy, elaborate vine designs or something like that. So keep that in mind when you are designing your image. Now, the next thing you'll need to notice is that you will need to alternate your black and white. And here I started doing that. You will want to make sure to not have 2 white shapes touching. So if this one is white, then maybe I need this one black. Now sometimes it's impossible to not have 2 shapes touching. If that happens, then you may want to either add stripes to one or maybe just simply thicken the line so that it is sort of a black shape. So you may need to adjust it, but you will definitely want to alternate so that you do have black and white shapes. On this one, I would need to continue the same thing on this area. Now on this one, I would need to go back and do it too because I need it to be no two white shapes touching. And those are really the things to keep in mind. The last criteria you notice is neatness. So do try to keep it neat. Now, if it's a whole lot to color and you just want to write like this one's going to be black, that's fine too, but you will want to keep your lines neat so that you can later simply carve it, trace it, and carve it out on your real plate.